Imagine a peaceful Mother's Day morning, a quiet bike ride in the scenic landscapes of Colorado, and a woman who vanishes without a trace. What starts as a simple missing person case soon spirals into a tangled web of secrets, deception, and a shocking revelation that no one saw coming. This is the story of Suzanne Morphew. Hey, true crime fans! I'm your host, Eamon. I'm thrilled to share crime tales across times with you. And in each episode, we dive into the most mysterious and chilling crime stories from around the world. We break down the evidence, examine the twists and turns, and uncover the shocking truths hidden behind every case. If you love true crime and enjoy analyzing every detail, make sure to subscribe and join our growing community. Now, let's get into today's case. On May 10th, 2020, Mother's Day, Suzanne Morphew, a 49-year-old mother of two, set out on what was supposed to be a peaceful solo bike ride near her home in Salida, Colorado. It was a bright spring morning, and the scenic trails surrounding Chaffee County were a perfect backdrop for a leisurely ride. But as the hours passed with no word from Suzanne, concern quickly turned to alarm. Calls to her phone went unanswered, and by late afternoon, her family grew increasingly worried. When evening arrived and there was still no sign of her, her husband, Barry Morphew, reported her missing. What followed was an extensive search operation that would soon capture national attention. Authorities, search teams, and volunteers combed the rugged landscape, hoping to find any trace of Suzanne. It wasn't long before they made a chilling discovery. Her bike was found at the bottom of a ravine. Though it showed signs of damage, it wasn't consistent with a violent crash. Even more puzzling was the fact that her helmet was discovered nearly a mile away, seemingly placed rather than thrown by the force of an accident. The unsettling scene left investigators with more questions than answers. Had Suzanne veered off the path and fallen? Or had something far more sinister taken place? Suzanne Morphew was a well-loved woman, known for her kindness, warm personality, and deep devotion to her daughters. To those who knew her, she was a caring mother and an active member of her community. But as investigators dug deeper into her personal life, they began to uncover details that complicated the image of a perfect family. Behind the facade of a happy marriage were signs of tension, secrecy, and betrayal. The search for Suzanne quickly turned into a far more complex investigation, one that would expose a tangled web of lies, deceit, and shocking revelations about the people closest to her. At the center of the investigation was Suzanne's marriage to Barry Morphew. To outsiders, they appeared to have a picture-perfect life. A devoted couple married for over 2 decades, raising 2 daughters in the peaceful town of Salida, Colorado. Barry, a successful landscaper, was seen as a hardworking family man, while Suzanne was known for her warmth and kindness. But behind the closed doors of their home, cracks had begun to form in their relationship, revealing a much darker reality. Suzanne had been struggling with deep unhappiness in her marriage. She felt increasingly trapped, and over time, Barry's behavior became more controlling. Investigators uncovered text messages where Suzanne confided in close friends about her fears. In one chilling message, she wrote, "He won't let me leave." These words painted a disturbing picture of her situation, one that suggested she was living in a marriage she desperately wanted to escape. In an effort to uncover the truth about Barry's actions, Suzanne had begun secretly recording their conversations using a spy pen, a small device hidden in their home. She suspected Barry of infidelity, believing he was the one having an affair. But when investigators reviewed the recordings, they made an unexpected discovery. Suzanne had been the one involved in a secret relationship. She had rekindled a romance with Jeff Libler, an old high school flame. Their affair had been going on for 2 years, hidden from both their families and friends. The couple exchanged messages through a secret communication app, and Jeff had even gone as far as purchasing a burner phone to avoid detection. This revelation changed the course of the investigation. It raised the crucial question: did Barry know about Suzanne's affair? And if he did, had it driven him to do the unthinkable? Investigators began examining Barry's actions leading up to Suzanne's disappearance, looking for any signs of rage, jealousy, or premeditated planning. What they found would lead them deeper into a web of deceit, manipulation, and an unraveling marriage that may have ended in murder. From the very beginning, Suzanne Morphew's disappearance raised more questions than answers. The way her bike and helmet were discovered didn't match the characteristics of a typical accident scene. If Suzanne had crashed, there should have been clear evidence: skid marks, blood, torn clothing, or indications of a struggle. Yet none of these were found. Her bike lay at the bottom of a ravine, damaged but strangely intact, and her helmet was discovered a mile away. Investigators immediately found this suspicious. If Suzanne had truly fallen off her bike, how had her helmet ended up so far from the scene? The inconsistencies pointed toward something far more sinister than an unfortunate cycling accident. As authorities dug deeper, their focus quickly turned to Barry Morphew, Suzanne's husband. He told investigators that on the morning of May 10th, 2020, Mother's Day, he had left their home early to travel to Broomfield, Colorado, for a landscaping job. According to Barry, he had spent the entire day working and had no idea what had happened to Suzanne while he was away. However, when investigators examined his alibi more closely, troubling inconsistencies emerged. Surveillance footage from the construction site where Barry claimed to be working showed his truck arriving, but the footage was unclear, making it impossible to determine if he was actually there the entire time. GPS data from his vehicle also raised suspicions. It indicated that Barry had made several unusual stops throughout the day, none of which seemed necessary for his supposed work trip. One of the most alarming discoveries was Barry's behavior around trash bins. Security footage from various locations in Broomfield captured Barry making multiple trips to different dumpsters, disposing of unknown items. Investigators counted at least 5 different stops where he was seen throwing away objects. When questioned, Barry dismissed his actions as insignificant, claiming he was simply cleaning out his truck. However, his explanation seemed suspicious. Why would he need to dispose of so many items in separate locations? And why had he chosen dumpsters that weren't even near his job site? Adding to investigators' concerns was the fact that Barry had booked the Broomfield job at the last minute. It seemed as though he had arranged the trip just in time to provide himself with an alibi. The timing, combined with his erratic movements and disposal of items, painted a picture of a man desperately trying to cover his tracks. As authorities pieced together Barry's timeline, the inconsistencies continued to pile up. His phone records revealed strange gaps, but perhaps the most unsettling discovery was a handwritten note found in Barry's truck. The note contained a list of cryptic reminders with phrases like, "Get rid of phone," "Clean up truck," and "alibi." To investigators, this read like a checklist of steps to cover up a crime. When confronted, Barry brushed off the note's significance, claiming it was simply a reminder to himself about routine tasks. However, authorities weren't convinced. If it was truly a harmless to-do list, why did it contain such peculiar and incriminating phrases? Investigators also found security footage from local businesses in Broomfield, where Barry had traveled on the day of Suzanne's disappearance. The videos captured him throwing away unknown objects in multiple dumpsters across town. He made at least 5 separate stops at different locations, carefully discarding items each time. When asked about it, Barry insisted he was just cleaning out his truck. But why did he need to use so many different dumpsters? And what exactly was he throwing away? The deeper investigators dug, the more inconsistencies they uncovered. Barry's movements, his phone activity, the bizarre Mother's Day text, and the suspicious note all pointed toward a deliberate attempt to mislead authorities. The case was no longer just about a missing woman. It was turning into a full-fledged homicide investigation. Now, investigators had to answer the most crucial question: where was Suzanne? Suzanne Morphew's last known communication provided a heartbreaking glimpse into her emotional state just before she vanished. Investigators discovered that on the morning of May 10th, 2020, Suzanne had exchanged text messages with Jeff, the man with whom she had been secretly involved for nearly 2 years. In her final message to him, she wrote, "I feel free with you. Let's make today wonderful." That message was sent just hours before she disappeared, and chillingly, it would be the last thing she ever wrote. To investigators, this text spoke volumes. It suggested that Suzanne was looking forward to the future, possibly considering a life beyond her marriage with Barry. This contradicted any theory that she might have left voluntarily or harmed herself. Meanwhile, Barry Morphew's behavior continued to raise red flags. His alibi was riddled with inconsistencies, and his actions, disposing of unknown items in multiple dumpsters, turning his phone on and off to disrupt GPS tracking, and sending Suzanne an oddly timed Mother's Day message, only deepened suspicions. As authorities pieced together the timeline of events, they were faced with a troubling question. Had Barry discovered Suzanne's affair that morning? And if he had, did it trigger a violent confrontation? With mounting evidence against him and no sign of Suzanne, investigators were determined to uncover the truth. But without a body, proving foul play would be an uphill battle. One thing was certain: Suzanne Morphew didn't just vanish without a trace. Someone knew exactly what had happened to her. The arrest of Barry Morphew. After nearly a year of gathering evidence, authorities arrested Barry Morphew on May 5, 2021, charging him with first-degree murder, tampering with evidence, and attempting to influence a public servant. The arrest was the culmination of a lengthy investigation that had uncovered a complex web of secrets and lies surrounding Suzanne's disappearance. Despite the circumstantial evidence, there was no body, no murder weapon, and no direct witness to the crime. Barry insisted he was innocent, claiming Suzanne had simply run away or been abducted. However, the evidence painted a different story, one of rage, betrayal, and a carefully staged crime scene. Prosecutors argued that Barry had killed Suzanne in a fit of rage after discovering her affair and then worked to cover his tracks. They pointed to the suspicious circumstances surrounding her disappearance, including the discovery of her bike and helmet in a ravine and the lack of any signs of forced entry or struggle. The prosecution also highlighted Barry's inconsistent alibi, his attempts to dispose of evidence, and his suspicious behavior in the days leading up to Suzanne's disappearance. They argued that Barry's actions were those of a guilty man, trying to cover his tracks and avoid detection. However, the the defense pointed out the lack of direct forensic proof linking Barry to a murder. They argued that the prosecution's case was based on circumstantial evidence and that Barry's actions could be explained by his concern for Suzanne's safety and his desire to protect himself from suspicion. In a shocking turn of events, the case against Barry was dismissed in April 2022, just days before the trial was set to begin. The judge ruled that key evidence had not been turned over to the defense in time, leading to the charges being dropped. The dismissal of the case was met with outrage from Suzanne's family and friends, who had been seeking justice for her disappearance. The case remains a mystery, with many questions still unanswered. What happened to Suzanne Morphew? Was Barry involved in her disappearance, or was he unfairly targeted by the prosecution? The truth may never be fully known, but one thing is certain. The disappearance of Suzanne Morphew is a tragic reminder of the devastating consequences of domestic violence and the importance of seeking justice for victims and their families. The mystery continues. To this day, Suzanne Morphew's body has never been found. Her daughters have stood by their father, insisting that he is innocent. Meanwhile, the case remains open, with authorities continuing to search for new leads. Was Barry Morphew truly responsible for Suzanne's disappearance? Or is there another explanation yet to be uncovered? One thing is certain: until Suzanne is found, the truth remains elusive. Final thoughts and questions for discussion. This case raises so many unanswered questions. If Barry is guilty, where is Suzanne's body? Was the evidence against him strong enough for a conviction? If Barry is innocent, who else could have been involved? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you believe justice was served, or do you think there's more to the story? If you found this case intriguing, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more true crime stories. Until next time, stay safe and stay vigilant. This is Crime Tales Across Times, signing off.